remember the exact moment my childhood ended. Not when I graduated high school, not when I moved out, but when I sat across from my parents at Olive Garden on a Tuesday night and watched my mother slide an envelope across the table with trembling hands. "Sweetie," she said, her voice doing that thing where it gets too bright, too careful. "We need to talk about your wedding fund." The fund. The one my grandmother had started when I was born. The one my parents had promised to match and maintain. The one that was supposed to hold $47,000 by now. I was 26, newly engaged to Marcus, and we'd been planning our lives around that money existing. "We had to make a difficult decision," my father said, not meeting my eyes. He was cutting his breadstick into precise, identical pieces, like it was the most important task in the world. My stomach dropped before my mother even finished her sentence. "We gave it to Bethany." The restaurant noise faded to a dull hum, forks scraping plates, conversations bleeding together. Somewhere, a child laughing, and me, frozen, trying to process what I'd just heard. "You gave my wedding fund to Bethany?" I repeated slowly. "She needed it more," my mother said quickly. "The foreclosure, Riley, you have to understand. She was going to lose the house. We couldn't just stand by and watch your sister become homeless." Bethany, my older sister by 3 years, the golden child who could do no wrong even when she was doing everything wrong. The sister who dropped out of college twice, married a man our entire family warned her about, bought a house she couldn't afford, and then acted shocked when her impulsive husband drained their savings on a failed cryptocurrency scheme. "That money was mine," I said, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking under the table. "Grandma Ruth left it specifically for me, for my wedding." "Grandma Ruth wanted the family to be taken care of," my father said firmly. "Bethany is family." "So am I." My mother reached across the table, but I pulled back. "You have Marcus. He has a good job. You'll be fine. Bethany has 2 children and a mortgage. She needed help now." And I needed parents who kept their promises. The silence that followed was the kind that cuts. My father's jaw tightened, my mother's eyes filled with tears, the tears that had always worked on me before, that had always made me the one to apologize, to smooth things over, to be the easy daughter. Not this time. I stood up, my chair scraping loud enough that nearby tables glanced over. "I need some air." I didn't go back inside. Marcus found me sitting in my car 20 minutes later, staring at nothing. He slid into the passenger seat and just waited, the way he always did. Patient, steady. Everything my family had never been. "They gave it to Bethany," I finally said. "All of it?" "Every cent, for her mortgage, because she needed it." I turned to him, and something in my chest cracked. "I've spent my whole life being the responsible one, Marcus. I worked 3 jobs through college. I graduated with honors. I saved. I planned. I did everything right. And Bethany gets rewarded for doing everything wrong." He took my hand. "What do you want to do?" That's when the idea started forming. Not revenge, exactly. More like accountability. "I want them to understand what they did," I said slowly. "I want them to feel it." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed scrolling through old photos. Birthday parties where Bethany got the biggest gifts. Graduations where my achievements were mentioned in passing before the conversation shifted to Bethany's latest crisis. Christmas mornings where I learned to expect less because Bethany always needed more. The pattern had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see it. By 3 a.m., I had a plan. By 6 a.m., I'd made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I called my parents. My mother answered on the second ring, her voice cautious. "Riley, honey, about last night. I need to meet with you and Dad today. It's important." "Of course. We can come over around..." No, your house, noon. Both of you need to be there. The firmness in my voice must have surprised her because she agreed without argument. I arrived exactly at noon carrying a folder and wearing the expression I'd learned in corporate negotiations, pleasant but unreadable. Bethany's car was in the driveway. Perfect. My mother opened the door, already talking. Riley, I'm so glad you came. We were worried you were upset. I was upset. Now I'm just clear. I walked past her into the living room where my father sat in his recliner and Bethany perched on the couch, looking uncomfortable. Why is Bethany here? I asked. We thought it would be good for us all to talk, my father said. Clear the air. Good. That's exactly what I'm here to do. I opened my folder and pulled out the first document. This is a repayment agreement. You took $47,000 that was designated for me and gave it to Bethany. I'm giving you 72 hours to return it. The room went still. Riley, we explained, my mother started. Let me finish. I placed a second document on the coffee table. This is a breakdown of every major expense you've covered for Bethany over the past 8 years. The down payment on her first apartment. The car loan you co-signed that she defaulted on. The credit card debt you paid off. The medical bills. It totals $180,000. Bethany's face flushed red. That's private. It's relevant because here's what you've contributed to me in that same time period. I placed down a third sheet. A $500 graduation gift, $200 for my birthday 3 years ago, and a KitchenAid mixer for Christmas, total $947. We helped you with college, my father said, his voice rising. You paid $3,000 toward my tuition one semester when I was 19. I paid back every other cent with scholarships and loans I'm still repaying. Bethany's 2 attempts at college, you covered $40,000 before she dropped out both times. I stayed calm. I'd practiced this. I'm not here to litigate the past. I'm here to address the present. You stole from me. You can frame it as helping Bethany, but legally that money was held in trust for me. Grandma Ruth's will was clear. My mother's tears started. You're going to bring lawyers into this against your own family? You brought theft into this against your own daughter. I pulled out the final document. This is from Grandma Ruth's estate attorney. I contacted him yesterday. The fund was established with specific instructions. The money was to be used for my wedding or returned to me on my 30th birthday if I chose not to marry. It was never yours to give away. My father stood up. We made a decision as your parents. You made a decision that broke the law and severed our relationship. I looked at each of them. Here's what happens next. You have 72 hours to return the $47,000. If you can't come up with the cash, you'll sign this payment agreement for monthly installments. If you refuse either option, I file a lawsuit. The attorney says I have an airtight case. You'd sue us, Bethany whispered. You'd steal from me, I countered. Let's not pretend you didn't know this was my money. You knew. You just didn't care. Riley, please, my mother sobbed. We're family. Then act like it. I stood up. 72 hours. The clock started when I walked in the door. I left the folder on the table and walked out. My phone started ringing before I even made it home. First my mother, then my father, then Bethany, then my Aunt Carol, because of course they'd already started calling relatives to paint me as the villain. I ignored all of it. Marcus was waiting when I got home. How'd it go? I gave them an ultimatum. And if they don't pay? Then I stop protecting people who won't protect me. He pulled me into a hug, and for the first time in 24 hours, I let myself cry. Not sad tears, angry ones. The kind that burn because you've held them back too. Long hour 18. My mother showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole as she knocked, waited, knocked again. She was crying. She always cried. It was her superpower, the thing that had made me fold 1,000 times before. I didn't open the door. She left a note that said, We can't come up with that much money that fast. Please be reasonable. We're your parents. I texted back, you had $47,000 last week. Find a way. 54 hours left. Hour 36. My father called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered, Riley, this is ridiculous. We're not criminals. Then prove it. Return what you stole. It wasn't stealing. We made a parental decision. Did you have legal authority over Grandma Ruth's trust? Silence. That's what I thought. 36 hours, Dad. I hung up. Hour 48. Bethany texted me a long message about how I was tearing the family apart, how her kids were asking why Aunt Riley was being mean, how she never asked for any of this. I replied, you accepted $47,000 that wasn't yours. You're not a victim. You're complicit. 24 hours. She blocked me. Hour 60. My Aunt Carol called, furious. Your parents are devastated. They're trying to take out a loan because you're being vindictive. They're taking out a loan to pay back money they stole. That's called consequences. They were helping your sister keep her house. With my money, without asking. That's theft, Carol. If you can't see that, you're part of the problem. You've changed, Riley. No, I finally stopped accepting less than I deserve. I hung up and blocked her too. Hour 71. My mother called from my father's phone. We have it, she said, her voice hollow. We took out a home equity loan. We'll transfer it tomorrow morning. Today, now, I'll send you the account information. Riley, please, can we just talk? Send the money, then we'll talk. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I don't understand how you became so cold. I learned it from being ignored for 26 years. You taught me that love in this family is conditional, based on need, based on crisis. I was never enough of a disaster to earn your attention, so I learned to not need you. My voice cracked, but I kept going. The money transfers today, or I file the lawsuit tomorrow. Your choice. She hung up. At hour 71 and 32 minutes, my phone pinged. Transfer complete, $47,000. I stared at the notification until my vision blurred. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. You did it? Yeah. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted, hollow, like I'd won a battle but lost something I couldn't name. 3 days later, my mother sent a text. The money is sent. Are you happy now? I typed and deleted 5 different responses. Finally, I'm not happy, but I'm not a doormat anymore either. That's progress. She didn't reply. 2 weeks later, my father showed up at my office. Security called first. There's a Gerald Hamilton here to see you. Tell him I'm in meetings all day. He says he'll wait. I sighed. Fine, send him up. He looked older somehow, tired. He sat across from my desk like he was the one in trouble. I came to apologize, he said. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Dad? You stole from me. You chose Bethany over me for the 1,000th time. You made me threaten legal action to get what was rightfully mine. And now you're here because you feel guilty. What am I supposed to do with that? His hands twisted together. We didn't see it that way. We saw a daughter in crisis and a daughter who was fine. I was never fine. I was just quieter about struggling. We know that now. Do you? Because here's what I learned. I leaned forward. I learned that being responsible gets you punished, that doing everything right means everyone assumes you don't need help, that I will always come second to Bethany's chaos because fixing her makes you feel needed. My voice stayed level, professional, the way I'd speak to a difficult client. I learned that I can't trust you. Riley, I'm not done. I also learned that I don't need you, not the way I thought I did. I built a life without your approval or support, and I'll build a wedding without your money. I'll build a future without your broken promises. Because I'd rather have nothing from you than keep accepting crumbs while you give Bethany the whole cake. He stood up, and for a second I thought he might argue. Instead, he just nodded. I understand. Do you? No, but I'm trying to. He moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, your mother and I are proud of you. We didn't know how to show it. You showed me exactly what I needed to see, just not what you intended. He left. Marcus and I got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, close friends. His family, who'd embraced me in ways mine never had. We used the $47,000 for a down payment on our first house instead of a wedding. My parents weren't invited. Bethany sent a card. No gift, just sorry about everything, hope you're happy. I didn't respond. The hardest part wasn't the confrontation or the 72 hours or even the lawsuit I'd been prepared to file. The hardest part was accepting that I'd spent 26 years trying to earn love that was never going to come. Not because I wasn't worthy, but because they'd never learned how to give it equally. Some people think I went too far. That family is family, and you forgive. But forgiveness without change is just permission to hurt you again. I didn't cut them off to be cruel. I cut them off to survive. A year later, on my birthday, my mother sent flowers. The card said, "We miss you. We're sorry. Can we talk?" I put the flowers in water and stared at them for a long time. Marcus didn't pressure me either way. He just held my hand and waited. "I don't know if I'm ready," I finally said. "Then you're not. And that's okay." "What if I'm never ready?" "Then that's okay too." I called my therapist instead of my mother. We talked about boundaries and healing and the difference between holding a grudge and protecting your peace. "You don't owe them reconciliation," Dr. Reyes said, "especially not on their timeline. But what if I regret it? What if you don't?" I'm 30 now. Marcus and I have a 2-year-old daughter named Ruth, after my grandmother. We're happy, genuinely, quietly happy in a way I never thought possible. My parents have met Ruth twice, supervised visits, stiff conversations. My mother cries every time. My father stays silent. Bethany hasn't tried to reconnect. People ask if I've forgiven them. The truth? I don't know. Some days I think I have. Other days the anger comes back sharp and fresh. And I remember that I had to threaten my parents with legal action just to get them to keep a promise. But I've forgiven myself for hoping they'd change, for taking so long to stand up, for being the easy daughter who never caused trouble until the trouble became unbearable. I've learned that you can love people and not let them hurt you. That family doesn't get unlimited chances just because you share DNA, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who make you feel small. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, here's what I want you to know. You're not selfish for having boundaries. You're not cruel for demanding respect. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. The people who truly love you won't make you choose between your dignity and their approval. And if they do, choose yourself. Every single time. My parents gave my wedding fund to my sister because they thought I'd forgive them. They were right. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going back to how things were. I gave them 72 hours to regret their choice. 4 years later, I think they finally do. But I don't regret mine. Not for a second. Share your story in the comments. And if you're struggling with family boundaries, know you're not alone. Subscribe so you don't face the next chapter alone.